In a village nestled high on the shoulders of a great mountain, the night sky was the most important thing in the world. The villagers didn't just see stars, they saw their roof. They believed that the night was a vast, dark blue blanket, woven from darkness and embroidered with a million twinkling silver stars. This sky blanket kept their world safe and warm, tucking them in each night for a peaceful, protected sleep. A young girl named Anya loved this blanket more than anyone. Every night, she would lie on her back on the cool, soft grass outside her cottage and watch it. She would trace the familiar patterns of the star embroideries, the great wolf, the sleeping bear, and the ice serpent. She felt a deep connection to the sky, a sense of being watched over by something ancient, vast, and incredibly kind. She would whisper her dreams and her secrets up to the silent, listening stars, and she always felt that, in their gentle, twinkling way, they heard her and understood. To Anya, the sky was not just a roof, it was the most beautiful, most magical, and most comforting blanket in the entire universe. One evening, as Anya was tracing the familiar shape of the ice serpent, she noticed something was wrong. In a dark patch of sky right next to the serpent's tail, there was a small spot that was emptier than usual. It wasn't just a space between the stars, it was a deep, starless, and unnaturally perfect black. It was so dark that it seemed to absorb the light of the stars around it. It looked like a tiny, snagged thread in the great, dark blanket of the night. A little shiver of unease went through her, a feeling she didn't understand. She watched it for hours, but it did not change. The next night, she looked for it again, her heart thumping with a strange worry. The spot was still there, but it was a little bigger now. It looked as if the tiny snag had begun to unravel, the threads of the night sky themselves coming loose at the edges. A faint, cold mist, a mist that seemed to be made of pure cold and not of water, was seeping from its edges. She tried to tell her parents, but they couldn't see it. "It's just a patch of empty sky, little one," her father said kindly. But Anya knew it wasn't. She could feel its wrongness, its coldness, in her bones. Night after night, the tear in the sky grew. What had started as a tiny, snagged thread was now a noticeable, dark patch in the sky, and the cold mist that seeped from it was beginning to drift down into the valley. A strange and unnatural chill began to settle over the village. The hardy mountain flowers, which usually bloomed right up until the first snow, now drooped their heads, their petals blackened by a frost that should not have been there. The little stream that ran through the village began to form thin, strange slivers of ice along its edges. Even though the nights were not yet cold enough for freezing, the villagers began to feel it too. They would huddle closer to their fires at night, complaining of a deep, permeating cold that their warmest blankets couldn't seem to chase away. Their dreams became restless and filled with a feeling of unease. The elders of the village began to look at the sky with worried eyes. They could all see the dark patch now, and they spoke in hushed, frightened tones of an ancient, forgotten legend. The legend said that the sky blanket was not unbreakable, and that if a tear ever appeared, it had to be mended, or the cold, empty nothingness from beyond the stars would leak in and freeze the world forever. Anya, her heart filled with a brave resolve, went to the oldest and wisest woman in the village. The elder lived in a small hut filled with ancient maps and books of forgotten lore. Anya asked her about the legend, about the mending of the sky. The elder looked at Anya with her old, wise eyes. "The legend is true," she said, her voice as soft as the rustling of old parchment, "and the task is a great one. The tools to mend the sky are not of this world. They are kept by Boreas, the ancient wind spirit, who lives on the very peak of the mountain." The elder's face grew serious. "But Boreas is a grumpy and solitary creature. He does not like visitors. He blames the people of the ground for the world's troubles." Anya did not flinch. "I must try," she said, her voice quiet but firm. The elder nodded slowly, a look of pride in her eyes. She went to an old, carved chest and took out a small, empty leather pouch, which she handed to Anya. "This is a sky pouch," she explained. "It is made to hold things not of this world. If you can convince Boreas to help you, this is what you must carry the tools in. Go now, And may your heart be warm enough to soften his. With the sky pouch at her belt and a small satchel with a warm sweet roll and a flask of water, Anya began her journey. She left the worried village behind and started the long, steep climb up the great mountain. As she ascended, the air grew colder and colder, the chill from the sky tier more and more intense. The path, which was usually a clear and friendly trail, was now slick with a strange, magical ice, and she had to move very carefully. The friendly sounds of the lower forest faded away, replaced by the low, mournful whistle of the wind as it whipped around the bare, rocky crags. This was a lonely and difficult climb. She was just a small girl against a great, cold mountain. Many times, she felt a shiver of fear, a desire to turn back to the warmth of her home and her family. But then she would look up, and through a break in the clouds, she would see the dark, ugly tear in the sky and the cold mist that was poisoning her world. The sight would fill her with a renewed strength. Her love for her home, for her family, and for the beautiful sky blanket was a small, warm fire in her heart, and it was a fire that the cold could not extinguish. She kept climbing, her eyes fixed on the distant, formidable peak, one slow, determined step at a time. After what felt like a lifetime of climbing, Anya finally reached the windswept peak of the mountain. It was a desolate, flat expanse of rock, scoured clean by the endless wind. As she stepped onto the peak, the wind, which had been a mournful whistle, suddenly coalesced into a single, towering, and furious form. It was Boreas, the wind spirit. He was a magnificent and terrifying sight, a great, swirling tornado of semi-transparent clouds and powerful wind currents. A furious, bearded old man's face was visible in the heart of the storm, his eyes two flashes of pale, angry lightning. "Go away, little groundwalker," his voice boomed, a sound that was not a voice at all, but the roar of a hurricane, a sound that shook the very rock beneath Anya's feet. "You are not welcome here. It is your kind, with your smoke and your noise, that has weakened the sky and caused this tear. This is your fault, not mine." The great, swirling spirit grew larger and more furious, and a blast of pure, icy wind knocked Anya to her knees. She was terrified. She wanted to run, to hide, to be anywhere but here. But she did not. Anya knew that she could not fight the wind, and she could not argue with a storm. So she did something completely unexpected. She did not run or cry or plead. She simply stayed on her knees, bowed her head against the furious wind, and she reached into her satchel. Her hands were trembling, and her fingers were numb with cold. But she carefully took out the small, warm, sweet roll she had packed for her journey. It was a simple thing, a little roll of bread made with honey and cinnamon, still slightly warm from her cottage hearth. She held it out, an offering, a gesture of peace. "You must be very cold up here, all alone," she said, her voice small but clear, carried on the very wind that was trying to push her away. "I thought you might like something warm." The great, roaring whirlwind that was Boreas suddenly faltered. He looked down at the tiny girl, and at the small, simple, and utterly unexpected gift she was offering. The warmth of the freshly baked bread, a warmth of home and of kindness, reached him, and it was a warmth he had not felt in 1,000 lonely years. The furious roar of his wind softened to a confused, questioning whistle. The wind spirit's furious form slowly dissipated, the roaring whirlwind shrinking and softening until he was just a tall, semi-transparent old man made of gentle, swirling clouds. The lightning in his eyes had faded, replaced by a look of deep, ancient weariness. He did not take the sweet roll, but he nodded towards it, a silent thank you. "You are brave, little one," his voice whispered, now the sound of a gentle breeze. "And you are kind. It has been a long time since anyone brought me kindness." He looked up at the great tear in the sky, and a deep sadness filled his cloudy face. "I cannot fix it alone," he said. "My winds can only push the edges apart. But the tools are here." He turned and led Anya to a hidden cave at the very edge of the peak. Inside, resting on a pedestal of pure, solidified cloud, was the sky, and on it lay a long, beautiful needle made from a single, shimmering shard of a fallen star, and a large spool of the softest, strongest, and most luminous cloud silk. The starlight needle and the cloud silk thread, Boreas said softly, they can only be wielded by a selfless heart and a steady hand. I am too full of anger, and my form has no hands. But you may be the one who can do it. Anya walked forward and reverently picked up the magical tools. The starlight needle felt cool and impossibly light in her hand, humming with a quiet, celestial energy. The cloud silk thread was softer than anything she had ever touched. She placed them carefully into the special sky pouch at her belt. But the tier is so high, she said, looking at Boy. I cannot reach it from here. A slow, gentle smile formed on the wind spirit's cloudy face. No, he said, but I can take you there. He then began to transform again. He was not the furious whirlwind from before. He wrapped his long, cloudy arms around Anya in a gentle, protective embrace, forming a safe, comfortable cocoon of soft wind and mist around her. Hold on tight, he whispered, and with a powerful whooshing sound, he lifted off from the peak, a great, controlled updraft, soaring high into the endless, starry night. It was the most exhilarating feeling in the world. Anya was flying. She was not afraid. She felt completely safe, wrapped in the wind spirit's strong, gentle embrace. They flew higher and higher, past the moon, past the familiar constellations, up towards the cold, dark, and wounded part of the sky. As they flew higher, the air grew colder and colder, a deep, penetrating cold that even the wind spirit's embrace could not completely block, and the friendly, twinkling stars grew sparse, until there were none at all. They had arrived. They were hovering at the edge of the sky tier. Up close, it was far more vast and terrifying than she had ever imagined. It was a great, gaping hole in the fabric of the night, a portal into a deep, absolute, and starless nothingness. The edges were like frayed, unraveling threads of pure darkness, and from the void itself, a terrible, soul-deep cold was pouring into their world. This was the source of the sadness, the cold that was chilling the hearts of her village and freezing the very life of her world. Anya could feel the great emptiness calling to her, a silent, lonely void that wanted to pull everything into its endless darkness. She felt a powerful wave of fear, a feeling of being very small and very fragile in the face of such a vast and empty nothing. She clutched the sky pouch at her belt, her knuckles white. For a moment, her courage almost failed her. Do not be afraid, little weaver, Boreas's voice whispered, his windy form holding her steady against the pull of the void. Your heart is warm. Your hands are steady. You can do this. His quiet confidence gave her the strength she needed. She took a deep breath, pushing her fear away and replacing it with the memory of her warm village, her loving family, and the drooping, sad flowers that were counting on her. She opened the sky pouch and took out the beautiful, glowing tools. The starlight needle shone with a defiant, brilliant light against the absolute blackness of the void. She unspooled a long length of the soft, glowing cloud silk thread and expertly threaded it through the needle's eye. Hold me steady, friend, she whispered to Boreas. Then, leaning out of her windy cocoon, she reached across the gap of nothingness. With a steady hand and a brave heart, she pushed the glowing needle through the frayed edge of the sky on one side, then pulled it out and pushed it through the other side, just as her grandmother had taught her to do with a torn blanket. She pulled the thread tight, and with a soft, beautiful, chiming sound, the two edges of the night sky pulled together, a single, perfect, silvery stitch against the darkness. That first stitch was a beacon of hope. It proved that the sky could be mended. Anya began to work with a new, focused energy. Her hands, so used to weaving wool and thread, moved with a surprising skill and grace. She stitched and wove, her glowing needle a tiny, dancing star in the darkness. Boreas, the great wind spirit, was her perfect partner. He held her perfectly still against the pull of the void, and with his gentle wind fingers, he would hold the long strands of cloud silk steady for her as she worked, a silent and helpful assistant. She didn't just make a simple, straight seam. That would leave a long, ugly scar across the beautiful sky blanket. Instead, she decided to weave a new picture, a new embroidery of stars into the patch. She remembered the stories her grandmother, told her of the brave and sometimes grumpy spirits of the natural world. And so, stitch by glowing stitch, she began to create a new constellation, a picture to commemorate her strange and wonderful adventure and the friend who had helped her. She was not just a mender, she was an artist, and she was painting a new story into the heavens with a needle made of starlight. With a final, loving stitch, her work was complete. The great, dark tear in the sky was gone, and in its place, a magnificent, new constellation blazed with a soft, silvery white light. It was a beautiful, swirling, and graceful pattern, a picture of a great, wise, and kind-faced spirit of the wind, his beard flowing out to become a gentle spiral of stars. It was Boreas, her grumpy but kind friend, now immortalized in the sky for all the world to see. As the last thread settled into place, a wave of warmth and peace washed over them. The terrible cold of the void now completely sealed away. The sky was whole again. Boreas looked at the beautiful picture Anya had woven of him, and a deep, rumbling sound, a sound like a great, happy, windy chuckle, echoed through the stars. "It is beautiful, little weaver," his voice whispered, full of a deep and happy pride. "It is the greatest gift I have ever been given." Anya looked at her creation, at the friendly, sparkling face of her friend, now a permanent part of the sky blanket. And she knew she had done the right thing. Their great task was finished. Boreas gently wrapped his cloudy arms around Anya once more and began their slow, triumphant descent back to the world. The journey down was a joyful one. The sky was whole and safe, and the air was no longer cold, but was filled with a gentle, peaceful calm. As they flew, Boreas told her ancient stories of the sky, of the birth of the moon and the secret names of the oldest, most distant stars, and Anya told him stories of her village, of the taste of warm bread and the feeling of soft grass under her bare feet. By the time they reached the peak of the mountain, they were no longer just a girl and a spirit. They were the truest of friends. "The sky will not forget what you have done," Boreas said, as he set her gently down on the solid rock. "And neither will I. If ever you need a friend, little weaver, just whisper my name to the wind, and I will hear you." Anya smiled, her heart full. She knew this was a promise he would keep. She placed the magical needle and the now empty spool of thread back in the sky pouch and prepared for her own, much shorter, journey home. Anya's walk back down the mountain was a happy one. The strange, magical ice had melted from the path, and the cold, mournful wind had been replaced by a gentle, friendly breeze that seemed to hum a cheerful tune as it guided her home. As she descended, she could see and feel the difference her journey had made. The mountain flowers were no longer drooping and frosted, but had lifted their heads, their colors looking a little brighter in the starlight. The little stream was no longer frozen at the edges, but was gurgling and chattering happily once more. When she finally reached her village, the heavy, unnatural cold was completely gone. A gentle, peaceful warmth had returned to the air. The villagers were all sleeping soundly in their beds, their restless dreams replaced by a deep and peaceful slumber. All tucked in safely under the newly mended sky. Anya crept quietly back into her own cottage, her heart full of a deep, quiet joy. She had faced a great and grumpy storm, had flown to the very edge of the universe, and had mended the sky itself, and now her world was safe and warm again. And so, Anya, the weaver, and the spirit of the wind watched over the sky together, keeping the world safe and warm. Now it is your turn to snuggle under your own cozy blanket. Close your eyes, look for the friendly stars in your dreams, and sleep well. If you enjoyed our fable tonight, we hope you'll join us again. Please like and subscribe to Bedtimes Fable to help us share more gentle stories with the world. Sweet dreams.